Hello, Algebra 1. So today we are going to continue with determining when we are factoring with a box problem and when we have to pull out a GCF first. So today we're going to do our notes in our homework packet. So if you could please find worksheet 10, or you can use the PDF that is posted in your module. We're going to start just with number 2, just a reminder of this type of factoring problem, and then we'll jump to our solving ones. Okay, so remember, when we have a problem like this, it's really like there's a 0x there. Okay, and again, notice there's no number other than a 1 in front of your x squared, so we are going to jump straight to our box problem. There's just one step here. We are multiplying to negative 49 and we are adding to 0. So since we're adding to 0, that means you're going to be dealing with opposites of the same number. So this will be a plus 7 and a minus 7. Okay, circle these 4 problems. We're going to come back to them in a little bit. But for now, flip the page of worksheet 10, and what we're going to focus on today is solving. Okay, so we're going to use our zero product property that we've learned about for the past few weeks. Okay, so number 16, we'll do 16, 17, notice I've changed 17 a little bit, 18, 20, and 21. Those will be the 5 problems that we're going to do for notes. All right, so notice we have an equal sign here. We will have to solve. What we will have to do first is get an equals 0 though, so I'm going to begin by subtracting my 14 over. Because it's just a regular number, it is going to go at the end. That's your C value, if you remember from quad formula, and then make sure you have your equal 0 at the end. Once you do that, now we'll check out our x squared. You only have a 1 in front. That means we'll go straight to our box problem. Okay, we are multiplying to negative 14 and we are adding to negative 5. All right, so take a minute to think about what those numbers are. It should be a 7 and a 2, but because we have a negative 5 here, that means our bigger number, the 7, is negative. Okay, so now we have this extra step. Since we have this equals 0, we do actually have to solve this. So we will go ahead and set each of these guys equal to 0. Remember, we can't do this until we're in factored form. Okay, so I've just added my 7 to both sides and I'll subtract my 2 to both sides. And these are your answers. And again, these are going to represent your x-intercepts or your zeros of your parabola. Okay. Number 17, go ahead and rewrite this one for me. I've just taken out the x cubes. Notice this one is already equal to 0, so that's a good start. And you should also notice that you just have a 1 in front of your x squared, which means we are going to go straight to our box problem again. We are multiplying to negative 24 and we're adding to negative 2. And 24 is a hard one because there are so many sets of numbers that multiply to 24, 6 and 4, 8 and 3, 12 and 2. In this case, it will be a 6 and 4 because we're trying to add to a negative 2, and our 6 will be the negative 1. Okay, make sure you have that equals 0 there, and then again, what we're going to do is we're going to solve it. So zero product property, we set each of your factors equal to 0. And then we'll just go ahead and solve. And again, notice your answers are the opposites of the factors. So like I had an x minus 6, so my answer is x equals a positive 6. I had an x plus 4, so my answer is a negative 4. Okay. All right, number 18. We do not have an equal 0, so we will have to take care of that first. Let's add over our 10x. And notice this has an x term, so that's our b value. It will need to go in the middle. So where you place these terms is important. Okay, and make sure you have your equal 0. So now you do have a number in front of x squared. Let's check. 2 does go into both 10 and 12, so this is our GCF. That means we will have 2 steps here. First step, pull out the 2. Second step, factor it. Okay, just to give us our little setup here. So essentially you're dividing each of these terms by 2, just like we did last week. We'll get x squared plus 5x plus 2 times 6 is 12. And now, only after you've pulled out that GCF, now we can find our numbers. we are multiplying to 6, and we are adding to 5. And that's going to be a positive 3 and a positive 2. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and solve. Remember, we're going to set everything that has an x equal to 0. We're going to ignore this 2 because 2 is not equal to 0. So we're just going to ignore that. Instead, we set these guys equal to 0. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and solve. Okay, and there are your answers. X equals -3 and x equals -2. All right, now number 20, you're going to notice that you have 2 terms on one side and 2 terms on the other. When we factor, we want our x squared term to be positive. So I want to leave my 3x squared and -3x where they are, and instead I'm going to subtract over my 9x. And I'm also going to subtract over my 36. I don't really have anywhere to put him. I'm going to put him there. Okay, but now when we put these in order, it is important. The x squared term, that comes first, then our x term. So I have -3x minus 9x. That's going to be -12x. And then I also subtracted 36 over. It's just your regular number, your c value, so that's going to go at the end. And I have my equal 0. I do have a number in front of x squared. 3 does go into 12 and 36 evenly. You can use your calculator to check if you'd like. So that means I have 2 steps here. I have the pulling out the GCF, which is 3, and then I have my box problem. All right, and then of course I have to solve it since I have an equal 0. All right, so take out your 3 first. We're dividing. -12 divided by 3 is -4x, or you could think of it as multiplying. 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 times 12, or -12, is -36. Okay, and I think we actually found these numbers before. Oh, maybe I made it up. Yeah, I might have made it up. We're multiplying to -12, we're adding to -4. So this would be a 6 and a 2. But we'd have a -6. All right, and then again, we're solving. And when you're solving, you're just setting the parts with x equal to 0. So I'm just going to ignore that 3 entirely. Okay, now you may be wondering, like, what is the point of that 3? Like, what does that do? If you remember back in Unit 8, which was like a long time ago, we talked about when parabolas were wide, normal, and narrow. Your 3, because it's a number more than 1, means that this parabola is a narrow parabola. Okay, that's all that it's doing. It's just determining the shape. But it doesn't affect where your x-intercepts are, your 6 and -2. So this is just, it's a skinnier parabola, and it has one intercept at 6, 0 and one at -2, 0. Okay. All right, last one. This one, we're going to do one with a cube just to kind of show you something a little different. We don't have an equal 0, so we will need to subtract the 12x. Now, ordinarily, I would say that it's your x term, that's your b value. It has to go in the middle, but notice that each of these have 1 degree or 1 exponent higher than usual. So we go down in order. So 3, 2, your x really needs to go at the end for this one. Okay, and this is a type of problem we're not going to focus on for your quiz, but I think it's still good that you see it. So what makes this one different is not only do you have this 2, this GCF in front, but you also have an extra x for each of these. So our GCF is actually a 2x. Okay, but since we do have a GCF, we still are going to do the 2 steps like we did in number 20. It's just the difference is we have an x out front as well. Okay, so let's divide. We're going to have x squared. Again, that's because 2x times x squared is going to be 2x cubed plus 1x, because 2 times 1 is 2, and x times x is x squared. And then 2x times -6 is -12x. And now we'll just go ahead and we'll find our numbers. We're multiplying to -6. Again, we're using this guy now. We're adding to 1. and that will be a 3 and a -2. Okay? All right, so now the way this is different is that you now have 3 parts that have an x. So when we set everything equal to 0, we're now going to set this 2x equal to 0 as well. Okay, everything gets set equal to 0 because they all have an x. And to solve this one, we'll just divide by 2. But 0 divided by 2 is still 0. Okay, and there are your 3 answers. So now let's go back to those problems that were on the front that I circled. Number 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what I would like you to do is we're going to change these problems. Everybody put an equal 0 at the end of all of those. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead, you're going to factor these, and you're going to solve them. All right. Now, you can check you would be able to check your answers on your homework answer key, but we've just changed these problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and write down what the answers to these are now, and then you'll need to check them. Okay. Now, keep in mind, here we just have ones in front, so you're going to go straight to your factored form. Okay. However, here, 5 and 6, we have a GCF in front. So you are going to need to do the 2 steps before you solve. Okay, notice I'm helping you set this up here. So when you have a GCF, 2 steps before you solve. All right, so I'm going to write down your answers for this. I'm just going to pause the video real quick so I can fill them in, and then I'll display it for you, and then you can use those to check your answers today, and then you'll submit these 4 problems for me. I just want to see these 4 problems. Please take a clear picture for me. All right, thanks. All right, everybody, so in the red, those are your answers that you're going to use to check. Please make sure that you have the work. Don't just submit this worksheet to me with these answers that I've written down. That doesn't do you any good, okay? And you do not have a Canvas quiz today. You just are going to submit these 4 problems for me. Okay, have a good one.